Hey everybody, welcome to lessonswithtroy.com. I'm Troy Brenningmeyer. Well, I wanted to give you a tutorial today all about how to read my tablature. Well, the program I've pulled up here is called Guitar Pro 6. You can see the little icon down there. And this is what I use to write all my tablature with. Sometimes for some of the 10-string pedal steel tablature, I use a program called Tablature, or Tablature, however you pronounce it. But most of the time I use Guitar Pro 6. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so let's go ahead and start, and I'll explain what all these parts mean. Okay, first off, we got the title, and over here we've got your metronome mark, which is your tempo. Okay, over here tells what instrument it would be for, and then to the right of that you have your tuning. Okay, well this tuning follows along with these lines here, and these lines are set up to be the strings of your guitar, where this line down here all the way to the bottom, that'd be your lowest in pitch, your thickest string. That would be what's referred to as the sixth string. And as you go up here, this string, or this line, represents your thinnest string, your first string. Okay, so for a regular dobro tuning, starting here with your lowest, your thickest string, that's G, B, D, and then third string, second, first string is G, B, D again. Okay, so going to the right of there, we have these numbers here. Okay, this is what's called your time signature. And if you don't know anything about time signature, I'll explain it real quick. In music, you have measures. Okay, these are the measures, and these are the bar lines here. And 4/4 time means you have 4 beats per measure, and the bottom 4 means that each quarter note gets 1 beat, which would mean you would have 4 quarter notes per measure. Okay, that's what this means, but that's basically your time signature. Okay, and as you can tell, I'll just go through each section of this. So when you have a number here, this means what fret you're going to set your bar on. Okay, now you want to set it directly over your fret when you're playing slide guitar. And this would be the number 1 means first fret, and because it's on this top line, that means first string. Okay, we can keep going. This number 2 would be second fret, second string, or your B string, right? Keep going. 3 means third fret, third string. 4 would be fourth fret, fourth string. I think you get the pattern here. 5th fret, 5th string, 6th fret, 6th string. So this all the way down here, you would find your 6th fret and on your 6th string, your lowest string, thickest string, lowest in pitch, right? Okay, so let's keep going. A lot of times you'll see this where you have a 0 to a number with a curved line over top. Now notice it's different than a curved line with a diagonal line connecting. Just the curved line means a hammer-on, and it means a hammer-on when you're starting on a 0 going to a number, right? 0 to 2, that means you're hitting that open string, your open first string, and then you're hammering your bar down right over the 2nd fret. So you're not actually picking this one here, you're picking this one and then hammering on to this one. Okay, now when you have a number to a 0, that means a pull off. Okay, so that means you're actually pulling off that string. And I have several lessons on hammer-ons and pull-offs, but you just want to pull straight back. If you don't have anything lower that you're going to be worried about muting out, if you just have this, you would pull straight back and kind of pop that note off there. Okay, when you have a lower number to a higher number, or vice versa, but you have this diagonal line with the curved line over top, in my tablature, that means you just slide up. So you're picking this one and you're sliding up to your 5th fret. Slide up. Same thing when you have 5 going down, or a number going down, you're just sliding down. When you have a higher number to a lower number, it's a slide down. Lower number to a higher number, it's a slide up. Okay, you may also see it sometimes in some of my tab where you don't have that curved line. It means the same thing. You're mostly worried about this diagonal line here. Notice how it's going down. It's slide down. Okay, sometimes you'll see this where you have a slide down. Notice the diagonal line, but no diagonal line here. That means you're sliding down from 5 to 3 and then pulling off from 3 to 0. So you hit it once, hit it on this 5, slide down, and then do a pull off. Now, you've probably noticed all these other marks in my tablature, and you're probably wondering what all that is. Well, because I kind of show you how things sound and all that, you don't necessarily have to know the rhythm or be able to read, complex rhythms or even simple rhythms, because I play it in my lessons. But if you did want to understand this, down here, down below my tablature, is the rhythm. I always write everything out in rhythms too, so if you understand how to read rhythms, you can understand, or at least learn how to understand how to read rhythms. So when you have something like this, and I might explain this later in this lesson, but this is 2/8 notes. Okay, that's what this symbol means. It's picture, this bar line right there, or this, not bar line, but this line right here would be like the flag, they call it, of an eighth note. So this is connecting 2/8 notes. So you count that like 1 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I don't want to get too deep into that because we could take up the whole lesson talking about how to read rhythms. Okay, let's keep going here. When you see that these two, these are rests. We'll get into rests a little bit later too. Okay, you might see something like this where it's just a number with a line in front of it. Okay, that just means slide in from below. Just anywhere, anywhere you want, really. Just keep it musical. Okay, and before I forget, you may be seeing these lighter colored numbers. Okay, those are your measure numbers. So you're just counting, like this is measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or your bars or whatever. So you're not actually playing those. You're playing the darker numbers. Okay, making sure I explain everything. Okay, and you may see something like this where it's a number or numbers stacked on top of each other with a line going down. That just means you hit that on your 5th fret, and you can, since they're all stacked on top of each other, you grab them all at the same time, right? Thumb, index, middle finger, usually on your right hand. And then you just slide out, slide downwards, slide out downwards. Okay, let's move on to here. Okay, here, this is slide the chord up. So you're playing this on your 4th fret, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. Okay, notice the diagonal line, that's most important. So you pluck this once and then slide it up from 4th fret up to 5th fret. Okay, notice the rest marks here. That's just a measure of rest. Okay, now I just put those in there just so that we have room. Otherwise, everything would be crowding each other and you wouldn't be able to read it, just so you know. Okay, so you might see this little squiggly line here. That means vibrato. Vibrato is when let's say, for example, you're on your 1st string, 5th fret, you pluck that, and then you move your left hand, your bar, you move it back and forth to give it what's called vibrato. Okay, sometimes you'll see an X on a particular string. That means you're not actually playing that with your bar to get a tone. You're touching it with, let's say, your ring finger and pinky on your left hand to just kind of mute out that string. So that's what that means. That's a muted note. There's a muted chord. Remember, when they're stacked on top of each other like that, that means a muted chord. Okay, you may see this like a symbol, a chord symbol above something in the tab. When it's, let's say, C, for example, a capital C, that just means a C major chord. Okay, now as we keep going here, we get into me explaining the rhythms underneath what's written under the tablature. So for all these examples coming up, I'm using just 1st string, 2nd fret. Okay, so remember, we're in 4/4 time. So if we just have one of those per measure, that's a whole note, and nothing's written under the tablature. Okay, when we keep going with the rhythms, so one whole note can be played. Basically, you hit that note and you ring it out for the duration of the measure. So you pluck it and you count pluck, 2, 3, 4. So that counts for the whole measure. Okay, when we want to play 2 notes in a measure, that would be 2 half notes. Notice what it looks like down here. We basically have a vertical line that's half the length of the vertical line of a quarter note. So here we have 2 half notes in a measure. You just count that 1, 2, 3, 4. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you want 4 quarter notes in a measure, it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you would, as I'm counting that, you would pluck that each time. So they're perfectly even, perfectly spaced. And this is what it looks like down below. Okay, when we have eighth notes, that's what this looks like. These are 2 eighth notes with a flag in between them. And you count that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. Okay, now in a measure of 4/4 time, right? Because we normally have 4 quarter notes in a measure. When you cut those in half, you've got twice as many. So you would have 2 times 4, you have 8 eighth notes in a measure. Okay, now going up in duration from that, you cut each one of these eighth notes in half, you get 16th notes. So in a measure of 4/4 time, you can have 4, right? There's a grouping of 4 16th notes, and you notice the 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times 4, you get 16 16th notes in a measure of 4/4 time. Now you count that. This is going to sound silly, but normally in music you count 16th notes as 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. So let me slow that down. That would be 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. Okay, and that's what 16th notes would look like in a measure. So what you want to do is when you're playing that or counting that or whatever, it has to be equal space with every note. 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. Okay, moving on to another rhythmic figure. We get triplets. That's basically 3 notes in a beat. And notice the grouping here. It's grouped in beats, right? Where that's a beat, that's a beat, that's a beat, that's a beat. And eighth notes. In 16th notes, here's 1 beat, 2 beats, 3 beats, 4 beats. Remember, 4/4 time, 4 beats in a measure. Okay, here triplets, each one of these grouping of triplets is a beat. And you count triplets as triplet, 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 or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4. If you wanted to count in the the triplets, but a lot of times I count it triplet, 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 triplet. Okay, now we get into what rests look like in my tablature. A whole rest, that means you're resting for the entire measure, looks like that. Okay, notice how the rectangular bar is going downwards, and you have 1 in a measure. Half rest, same as half notes, you have 2 in a measure. They're on the upper side of the line. Okay, quarter rest, you have 4 in a measure, and they look like this weird looking symbol. Okay, eighth rest, in 4/4 time, 4 beats per measure, you would have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 per measure. 16th rests look like that. Okay, now a lot of times in my tablature, down below the rhythms, right, I have the fingering, the right hand fingering, whereas M means middle finger, I means index, and T means thumb. Whereas if I have an M underneath there, that means play with your middle finger of your right hand. I means play with your index finger of your right hand or picking hand. I guess some of you guys are left-handed. T means play with the thumb. Okay, now sometimes you'll see this where I have an arrow pointing up with all these X's. That means you're going to mute out all these and play 5th fret 1st string. So you would take your bar, tilt it up to where you're only playing this 5th fret 1st string, and with your ring and pinky finger on your left hand, your bar hand, you'd be muting out these strings here, and you rake it. So you take your thumb on your right hand and you just rake that, just like that. Okay, sometimes you might see a small little number going up to another one. That just means a quick ghosted slide. Ghosted slide means this doesn't really have a time value it's a very quick slide from 2 to 4, let's say in this example, on your first string. So 2nd fret to 4th fret, but the 2nd fret sliding in, that's so quick that you just kind of start there and you just slide into 4th fret. So it doesn't really have a time value. Okay, as you can tell, I wrote this out a long time ago. The copyright was way in 2010. Okay, so moving on, we're just about done with this. Sometimes you'll see this where I just have an arrow pointing up with 3 strings. It could be any 3 strings, but what that means is you roll it, a quick thumb index middle, bring, bring, like that. You just roll that going up. Okay, now sometimes you'll see this. Notice how I have this 5th fret and this curved line. That means this is a tie. So basically you pluck this, right, and it gets the added value of this. Now, like I said, in my lessons, this is complex stuff, but in my lessons I play it over and over again to show you what it sounds like. So you don't necessarily need to be able to read this like you're sight reading something in the classical sense, because I am showing you how it sounds over and over again. So something like this, in my lessons, I would show you how that sounds. But just so you know, understand, this is a tie. What's in music's called a tie. You tie this value of note, half note in this case. Notice that vertical line is tied to the value of that. Pluck it once, but hold it for the value of both these. Okay, here's a dotted note. That's just that means that this is going to get, the dot adds half the value of the note that it follows. So this is a half note with a dot after it. That would be a half note with the added value of, it's kind of complex, a note half the value of that. Okay, half the value of a half note is a quarter note. So this is, pluck this and it's going to get the duration of a half note plus a quarter note, which would be 3 beats. Now, to me, this is real easy to see because we basically have this, and then we have a quarter rest. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, here's beat 4, here's beat 1, 2, and 3. So you hit this note, bling, and it rings out, bing, 2, 3, rest. Okay. Dotted quarter note would look like this. That would get the value of a quarter note plus an 8th note, because an 8th note's half the value of a quarter note. Okay, dotted 8th note would look like this. I'd get the value of an 8th note plus a 16th note. Don't worry so much about all that stuff. That's a little complex, but at least you know what it looks like in the tablature. These are just different rests that, you add all this together, and that would equal 4 beats. Okay, now sometimes you'll see this little thing here where you have a number and you have these things here on the side of it. That just means a harmonic. That means you place not your bar, but your finger on your left hand directly over the 5th fret, and you pluck that, take your finger off, and that's what gives you the sound of a harmonic. Your strongest harmonics are on your 12th, 5th, and 7th frets. Okay, now sometimes in the tablature you might see this symbol where 2 8th notes equal the value of a quarter note, or this is what it would sound like. A quarter note, basically this would be a triplet. Notice the 3 over it. Quarter note, 8th note. That just means you swing. It's a swing feel. And like I said, I play this in the lessons so you can get a sense of what it sounds like. You don't have to sight read it cold. But this means play your 8th notes instead of straight, like 1 and 2 and 3, very straight. You do what's called, you swing your 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it has more of a swing feel to it. And that's what that would mean. That would mean all these 8th notes are swung as opposed to played straight. Okay, so hopefully that shed a little bit of light on my tablature and what all those different symbols mean. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed it.